there. My name is Dr. Laura Rodriguez. I am the Event and Education Coordinator for Black Swamp Conservancy. Also, I am co-founder of Taproot, a Source, which is an online community that fosters healthy engagement with ourselves, with each other, and with the world around us. And I am also an ecopsychologist. And that is why I have been asked to speak with you today, to share with you ideas surrounding this new and upcoming field of ecopsychology. Everywhere around us are signs of spring. And through my open window, I can hear birds singing, I can smell hyacinth in bloom, I can hear children's laughter drifting across the yards. And the trees and all the plants, they're budding and they're just starting to leaf out. I want to think about leaves and talk about what this leaf has to do with ecopsychology. So this leaf, first off, it is a part of natural systems. It's a part of the natural world and all those ecological processes that operate in the natural world. It's a part of the life and death and renewal processes that are continuously happening on this planet. And we too are a part of the natural world and natural systems. We too are a part of that life, death, and renewal process that happens on this planet. In fact, this leaf and us, we are the same. We are the same, we're made out of the same atoms and molecules, but just in different arrangements. In ecopsychology, we say that if we are a part of the natural world, if we are a part of nature, then those ecological processes that happen in the ecological world must also operate in us as well, if we are a part of that natural world. Paracelsus was a physician and an alchemist living in the 1500s, and he said, everything external in nature points to something internal, for nature is both inside humankind and outside humankind. So we are a microcosm of the universe. And if one understands the workings of the world, then one can understand the workings of humankind. So I like to think of ecopsychology as a bridge between the ecological world and the psychological world. And crossing this bridge allows us to gain insight into nature and also into human nature and the relationship between them. Ecopsychology looks at how we are not only biologically connected with our world, but how we are ecologically and psychologically interconnected with our world. Ecopsychologist Lori Pye, she asserts that a key process of ecopsychology is seeing how we are an ecosystem. We are an ecosystem. Now, most of us are familiar with that term, ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of biological organisms which, in conjunction with their physical environment, interact as a system. Ecosystems are governed by ecological principles and processes surrounding energy flows, diversity, nutrient and waste cycles, change and adaptation, and interconnectedness relationships. Well, we too are a biological community of organisms. And with our physical environments, we interact as a system. And those same processes that operate in the ecological world operate in us. Well, what do I mean by this? Well, let's take, for example, the ecological process of diversity. In the ecological world, the diversity of an ecosystem determines the resiliency of that ecosystem. Diversity allows an ecosystem to withstand disturbances. So a very simple example of this would be if we were to compare a black swamp forest comprised mostly of ash trees to a black swamp forest comprised of a variety of trees like oak, sycamore, hickory, walnut, maple, cottonwood, and ash trees. Now, when a disturbance occurs in either of these forests, like an infestation of an invasive species such as the emerald ash borer, what do you think might happen? So let's create that forest comprised mostly of ash trees. And we will throw in a few other trees, an oak, a hickory tree, another oak, and a cottonwood tree. In this forest comprised mostly of ash trees, the beetles will take down most of the forest. And what this is doing is freeing up space for other species to flourish. Gaps are created in the forest canopy, and this allows sunlight to filter down to the understory vegetation. And sometimes native trees and plants may fill in that space, but more often than not, non-native species take advantage of this increased sunlight. In Ohio forests, honeysuckle, garlic mustard, and multiflora rose are often the non-native and invasive plants that take root. Their colonization, rapid growth, and reproduction can affect the well-being of the native plants that live in the forest, like trillium, bloodroot, spice bush, buttonbush, jewelweed, and Dutchman's breeches. But as everything is connected, the loss of those ash trees can have other consequences for the forest as well, other than just opening up this space for invasive plants to flourish. For example, the loss of native plants means the loss of the native insects and animals that they attract, like the spicebush swallowtail butterfly, whose host plant is the spicebush. And this further reduces diversity and thus the resiliency of the forest. Loss of ash trees, which are a calcium accumulator, can affect soil composition, which may also affect the native plants of the forest that rely on a particular soil composition to survive. Now, in the forest that's comprised of a variety of tree species, the forest will likely withstand the emerald ash borer disturbance. While ash trees may succumb to the beetle, the forest as a whole, because of its diversity, will remain relatively undisturbed. A great example of this can be found at Carter Historic Farm in the woodlot, the 10-acre woodlot behind the farm there. If you walk the path of that forest, you will see downed ash trees due to the emerald ash borer. But overall, you will see a flourishing, diverse forest with relatively few non-native invasive species. Now remember that I said that those same processes that operate in the ecological world operate in us. So how does the ecological process of diversity apply to us? How can diversity create resiliency and help us when we encounter a disturbance in our ecosystem? We can think of diversity biologically. For example, a more diverse diet allows us to get all the nutrients we need to strengthen and support our immune system. And this can help us fight invasions, like bacterial invasions or a viral one, like we're needing to do now with COVID-19. We can also think of diversity psychologically. For example, when we consider multiple perspectives, when we engage our curiosity and our imagination, we expand our options beyond either this or that to everything in between and beyond. Diversity provides opportunity, which psychologically strengthens us. When we encounter a disturbance in our relationships with others or even with ourselves, we can be creative in thinking of a variety of ways we might achieve or regain stability, harmony, balance, and even growth in those relationships. Now, a favorite band of mine is the Talking Heads, and their song, What a Day That Was, has a great line in it that speaks to this psychological diversity. They say, there's a million ways to get things done. There's a million ways to make things work out. Now close your eyes for me and imagine yourself lying in the woods under a night sky. And as you lay there resting comfortably with your eyes closed, you feel supported by that soft earth, and you feel the gentle breeze across your face. And you can smell the earthy smells of the forest. Listen closely and you can hear the sounds of the forest night, the insects clicking and chirping. And as you slowly open your eyes, you see the towering pines pointing upward toward the heavens and revealing to you a multitude of stars, millions and billions of stars. And each one of those stars is a possibility. Each one is a choice. Each one is a way to make things work out or not. Millions and billions of ways to get things done. So pick one, pull it out of the night sky, try it on. Maybe it's a great fit. Maybe it works for you. Maybe it doesn't. Go ahead and throw it back. There's no need to hold on to it. Give it back for someone else to use. Give it back to release you from the struggle of trying to make it fit. This is diversity, the picking and choosing of ideas and ways of doing things, the trying them on to see how they fit, how it looks and how it works in the world, and the throwing out of those ideas that aren't flourishing for you. So it's this endless cycle of picking, trying, keeping, or tossing, and it's as endless as the stars in the night sky. Diversity provides opportunity, opportunity which psychologically strengthens us. And this way, we can regain that stability, that harmony and growth in our relationships. So this is a brief example using diversity. In a workshop or a class setting, we could take time and we could look at other ecological processes that I had mentioned, like the energy flow and nutrient and waste cycles. And we could look at how they operate in the ecological world and how they operate in us. And the value in doing this is that we can learn from the ecological world. The ecological world has been working and refining these processes far longer than us. And what we can learn from them, we can apply that to our ecosystem. Of course, we don't have time for that in this brief introduction, but I do want to touch on one more ecological process, and that of interconnectedness and relationships. Remember that a key process of ecopsychology is seeing how we too are an ecosystem. And again, an ecosystem is a community of biological organisms which, in conjunction with their physical environment, interact as a system. Community, interact, relationships. The world and our specific place in it influence and interact with each other. What we do, our choices, our lifestyles, our behaviors, and what we think, our attitudes and beliefs, they move out into and influence the world. And likewise, we are influenced by the world around us. Now, while Paracelsus, you remember Paracelsus, while his interest was in this microcosm, macrocosm relationship, his interest was biological. Carl Jung, he viewed it psychologically. Carl Jung wrote that the psychology of the individual is reflected in the psychology of the nation, and likewise, the psychology of the nation is reflected in the individual. I have this little toy here that's a good example of this microcosm, macrocosm world, and how they influence one another. Jung said, only a change in the attitude of the individual can initiate a change in the psychology of the nation. Only a change in the attitude of the individual can initiate a change in the psychology of a nation. Now, there's some food for thought. So, recognizing that we humans are ecosystems means recognizing that we're engaged together in this microcosm, macrocosm relationship with each other, with our local, national, and global communities, and with the natural world. So, going back to this leaf, what makes us nature and a part of the natural world is more than just the atoms and molecules. It is the relationships within and among this leaf, within and among myself. It's the relationship between the leaf and myself, between all of nature and ourselves. So I'm going to close with this thought. I want you to take a moment and take in a couple of deep breaths and just release them slowly. An essential relationship that we have with this leaf is an exchange of gases. This leaf and all the plants on this planet, they gift me oxygen each and every time I take in a breath. And likewise, I gift the leaf and all the plants on this planet carbon dioxide every time I exhale. We do not operate in this world alone. We are a part of the natural world. We are engaged in essential relationships with the natural world. Our thoughts and behaviors do have an influence on others. They do make an impact in the world, including the natural world. Ecopsychology raises awareness of these relationships, both creative and destructive. And ecopsychology can offer us ways to change narratives that contribute to destructive behaviors and relationships. But I will save that for our next meeting. Until then, bye for now.